Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's February 25th, 2023. We are in the Old Testament. We are in the book of Genesis. We're going to read chapter 50, verse 15, 5 to 26. So we're going to finish off Genesis today. All right, we just saw Jacob die, and we saw this big, lavish Egyptian procession, and they gave him Joseph's family everything they wanted, and had this big procession back to Canaan to bury Jacob. This section, Joseph dies, and we get this big one. We don't get the big procession. So I mentioned earlier, yesterday, I believe, that going into exile seems like a bad thing, but why is God having Israel go into exile? Because he needs to teach them some things. One of the things he wants to teach them is the fickleness of human rulers, and we see that right away in here, just in the span of one lifetime, from Jacob's death to Joseph's death. The Egyptian attitude towards him seems to have changed. Now, how did it change? It doesn't really give us some detail, but there's a difference here. Again, Jacob dies, and Joseph's the hero, and he could have anything he wanted to go bury his father back in Canaan. Joseph dies. Again, he was the hero that saved them from this famine. Everybody knew where he wanted to be buried, and that didn't happen until much later. And that's where this concludes. We said the author of this is Moses. Well, Moses isn't alive, so how did he write this? Well, this is oral traditions. So could there be some errors in here? Could there be some things that aren't quite right? Well, yes, because it's passed down oral. But one thing about something passed down oral tradition, that would be, what I'm going to tell you. We kind of think of it like a telephone game. It's not like that at all. I'm going to read a scripture. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, perhaps Joseph will hate us, and he may actually repay us for all the evil which we did to him. And then you would have to repeat that back to me. And we would just keep going back and forth until you could repeat that, and then we'd move to the next one. And then we'd read both of them, and you would repeat it to me. And when I was satisfied that you could repeat everything I told you fully and repeat it to the next person, that's when you could go pass on this oral tradition. So oral tradition was actually probably a lot more stricter than the writing tradition, because I would just write it down and hand it to you and say, here, you go copy it. And you would say, oh yeah, I copied it, and then I handed it to him. And that's where we start to see those scribal errors that we encounter from time to time. So again, this is the conclusion of Genesis. This is the conclusion of that oral tradition that was passed down, that Moses wants us to know all about God and all about the patriarchs and all about how God and man, we fell out of favor for our own sins, and God reached out to us to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to pull you back. You're going to fight me, but I'm going to pull you back. And that is when we get to our conclusion way out here in the New Testament for us Christians. But for us, we're going to read right now chapter 50 in Genesis, verse 1-5, all the way to the end, 26. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, perhaps Joseph will hate us and may actually repay us for all the evil which we did to him. So they sent messengers to Joseph, saying, before your father died, he commanded, saying, thus you shall say to Joseph, I beg you, please forgive the trespass of your brothers and their sin, for they did evil to you. Now please forgive the trespass of the servants of the God of your father. And Joseph wept when they spoke to him. Then his brothers also went and fell down before his face, and they said, behold, we are your servants. Joseph said to them, do not be afraid, for I am in the place of God. But as for you, you meant evil against me. But God meant it for good, and in order to bring it about as it is this day, to save many people alive. Now therefore do not be afraid. I will provide for you and your little ones. And he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. So Joseph dwelt in Egypt, he and his father's household, and Joseph lived 110 years. Joseph saw Ephraim's children to the third generation. The children of Machir, the son of Manasseh, were also brought up on Joseph's knee. And Joseph said to his brethren, I am dying, but God will surely visit you and bring you out of this land to the land of which he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Then Joseph took an oath from the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here. So Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. May God bless the reading of his word, and may God bless you. Bye.